And my first guest on this week's program is Mr. Dean James. He's the CEO of a company called Imaging 3 Incorporated. Dean, glad to have you here.
Thanks, Don.
Now, Dean, you know, we've been talking about what your company does, and you're just basically awaiting FDA approval on a very unique medical imaging device. It's called the Dominion. Tell us about that.
Well, the Dominion's a circular gantry system. It's a volumetric imaging device. It scans the body in 360 degrees, takes those images, and puts them into a 3D construct. Now, it takes the images at less than a second, and it updates that construct every 0.2 to 0.8 of a second thereafter. That's giving you real-time 3D imaging.
Well, it's interesting, and especially when I think about myself personally, because I've had all kinds of spinal issues, I'm routinely finding myself in an MRI. And I think one of the most frustrating things about an MRI is not only, of course, you're being crammed in this little tube, which for a guy my size is difficult anyway, but also you don't get your results back for a couple of days. And you sit around wondering, okay, did this disc go worse? Did this disc get better? That kind of thing. Your imaging is in actual real time. I find that fascinating.
Right, and you know our device is also mobile. It fits through a regular room door, plugs into regular wall power. It's got a large borehole, so it's like 40 inches. So you know it eliminates that claustrophobic experience. You know when you're in an MR, you know you're in this small little borehole all by yourself with this clanging going on when they're taking the imagery for you. And then of course, you know it takes several minutes for them to do the to acquire the imagery and then display it. You know most 3D imaging devices that are out there are all post-processing. Well, all of them are actually. Ours takes your information, you know, it scans every 0.2 of a second to 0.8 of a second and displays it automatically. So it's real time. Every second we're giving you three-dimensional imagery on the fly.
Now, I was wondering about that because you said, of course, we looked at some video of the unit, and of course it is a much larger opening, and it's not a tube, it's more like a ring, so to speak. And but there's no clanging, there's no beeping and buzzing and clanging, the kind of things that we normally get in an MRI?
No, it's a silent system. I mean, you pretty much don't know anything that's being, you know, any imagery is being taken other than the physician showing it on the monitor. And our device is large and it's mobile, or the borehole is large. I mean, the footprint is basically what you would have with a standard C-arm or mobile fluoroscopic system. But it works for not just diagnostic purposes, but for interventional work as well.
So, okay, so that's an outline of the benefits, I guess, to the patient. I mean, it's much less claustrophobic, it's obviously not noisy, and they get their images in real time. Let's talk about the advantages now to the healthcare provider. As you mentioned, the system is portable, and we saw that in reality. You actually were able to bring the system right into our studio here, how we got those beautiful pictures. But you mentioned it plugs into a normal wall socket, regular 110 power. There's no electrician that has to come into the healthcare facility or hospital to install this thing, correct?
Well, correct. And you don't have to break out a wall or do any special type of construction work to have our device work. I mean, it could move throughout the facility. It could be used in the OR during the day and move down to an interventional lab and radiology department, or even into the ER to be able to assist diagnosing trauma patients. So, you know, the mobility actually adds to the overall effectiveness of our product to work within a facility.
So now I think we talked about this one time before, where the price of your unit is somewhere around $550,000, which is much less expensive than competing technology. Tell us about that.
Well, it's a third the cost of a new CT scanner. In some cases, you know, new CT scanners, the really high-end ones, are around $3 million.
Wow.
So our device is, you know, $500,000, which is a third of the standard cost. Plus, it's mobile. It can be used for, you know, again, diagnostic purposes or interventional work, or, you know, for minimum invasive surgical techniques. You know, again, it doesn't require a fixed room or shielding, you know, special shielding, or you know, some exotic type of power like three-phase power. It can plug right into the regular wall.
You know, I find all of this so amazing because, of course, one of the problems that we're experiencing in our healthcare system, of course, is that things are so expensive. And if you have a unit like a CT scan unit, it has to be in its own dedicated room. It needs all kinds of infrastructure changes to get it into the building, so to speak, as you mentioned. Yours can wheel around from department to department to department, basically taking care of a number of different jobs, so to speak.
Well, exactly, and that makes it have an attractive return on investment, an ROI. By being able to have not just a fixed use or a fixed location, you can use this throughout a facility. That's very attractive to hospitals these days. You know, with budgets getting slashed and issues for medical purchases, large device purchases, having a system that's not only going to be used specifically for urology or for interventional use, it can be used throughout the facility. It's very attractive to hospitals these days.
Now, I would have to think that the people who are in the health insurance business must be just anxiously waiting for your device to receive FDA approval. Because I remember the last time I underwent an MRI, I happened to see the insurance statement come through, and I think it was like $3,500. And I would have to imagine with your unit costing so much less to buy, so much less to operate, so much less to, well, there is no installation cost, so to speak, that perhaps the healthcare providers might not charge as much as some of the traditional scanning techniques.
Well, exactly. And also our device is providing more accuracy for their procedures, increasing throughput, minimizing the impact to the patient, the trauma to the patient, limiting, stays for, surgery, for surgical stays. So yeah, we're not only affecting, their overall cost, their bottom line, their return on investments increased as well as their throughput, meaning they can do more cases. So it's a win-win across the board.
Now, we mentioned at the top of this interview that you're basically waiting for FDA approval. I think I once joked that you're waiting for your cell phone to ring at any moment. Do you have any kind of an idea of when that might come down?
Well, we've made significant progress. I really don't want to nail it to a date, but we're really, much further along than we were in the past. And I'm very confident that we'll have that in the very near future.
Well, Dean, I just want to congratulate you on the device itself. I think both healthcare providers and patients like ourselves will be very happy once this is basically everywhere that we go. Again, Dean Janes, Imaging 3 Incorporated. If you'd like to see some remarkable images that the Dominion can provide, go to their website, imaging3.com. That's imaging3.com. Dean, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Don.